We got to break Cereba up. Cereba is a cartel.
We have to own our grid because we paid for it. You had it too long. That's number one. We need to control the purchasing of fuel because we pay for it. We should be in charge of buying it. The fuel companies, you better buckle up too. Jackson Point pipeline have to be reverted back to the ownership of the country. Oh, Mario, you can't tell them how to operate their business. Well, yes, we can. Having this idea that you're going to impose what's best because of what the law tells you can do will cause an uprising in this country that you've never seen before. My children are going to be saddled with the debt of a billionaire so that he can have his name printed on everything we got around here. Because, let me tell you something, this is Dart Island. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to Word of Mouth. Today is obviously February the 1st, which is the new year for us. And certainly we've been trying to get ourselves organized where we can start broadcasting from the studio from here on out. And of course, I'll still do mobile locations and do some broadcasting, all depending on how urgent the matter is in the situation. Now, there's a lot that has gone on over the last couple of months since we've been coming on a regular basis, and there are some technical bugs within our system. And as you can see, I have a new green desk that is highlighted with a brown shadow of myself and the light reflecting in the back. And I also have a green thing that surrounds me, so that's my superpower that I turn on this morning. But these are the technical difficulties that we were facing today. So don't be alarmed if you see a green desk. We're still on planet Earth. So we're gonna just do the show. We tried our best to fix this issue, but we were unable to. So I didn't want to delay the show any longer. So I decided to just broadcast as is, where is. So, but yeah, some interesting things happening within the local landscape, and certainly we need to keep ourselves abreast of what's going on, and we need to be fully aware of our surroundings. That's the only way we'll be able to cope and deal with a lot of the fundamental issues that affect all of us. And I don't think any of us are unique or protected from, let's just say, the cost of living. We all have to share into that reality. So when we speak about those things, we speak about it from a general position where we all want to see the same common goal, which is to try to reduce the cost of living. Other issues or other topics where we see the government trying to put through this East-West Arterial Road, and obviously there's a lot of drawback to it because of the EIA studies and reports. The funny thing is that the very same people that is pushing for all of these different things are the same people who complain about traffic. And at the end of the day, if we're going to hit the pause button now and say that we're not developing any more roads, but we're willing to continue to increase our population, I think that's kind of oxymoronic, because at the end of the day, when we look at the infrastructural stream that we currently, facing with the increased population, increased, development and work permit holders and different people who got driver's license who are traversing on the road, we need to come to a very harsh reality that we're going to have to do infrastructure upgrades. Now, at the expense of who? The country, of course. Now, we can complain about traffic, we can complain about the discomfort of all of the infrastructure streams, but are we willing to do anything about it? And when we decide to do something about it, we have all of these overnight experts who come out of the woodworks and say, oh, you shouldn't do it for this reason. But no matter what we face in this country, when it comes to development or it comes to progression, you're going to have some sort of environmental impact. Because building that road or extending that East-West Arterial to Frank Sound is no different from planning department approving commercial property development, personal development, or even housing, because you still have to disrupt the natural flow of the environment in order to build these establishments. Now, if we're saying that we're going to stop home building or commercial building or apartment buildings, whatever the case is, then we must be willing to stop everything across all sectors, because we just can't pick and choose and decide who we're going to stop developing, right? But the thing is, sustainable development has always been on the forefront of everybody's mind. Now, I understand and I totally agree that we need to do the EIA study to see what level of impact we will be getting when we do this road and what will occur when we do this road. But at the end of the day, there's one common denominator in this whole entire discussion is that we need that road. It's not a fact whether we want the road. There's a difference between wanting and needing. That road is something that is needed. If we want to continue to upgrade the infrastructure in a sensible way and in an environmentally friendly way, we need to understand that there's going to be some impacts. Just like if I got a house plan, I submitted it and it was approved, and I got to tear down some trees, dig some trenches, and build that house in that particular lot of land, there's going to be an environmental impact to everything that was on that property. But somehow that's seemingly allowed simply because it's a dwelling for a private owner. And when we talk about environmental impact, if I was a true to the bone person that championed environment only, I would be stopping deep wells. Why is it that in the Cayman Islands in 2023, when we're supposed to be a first world country, we're digging deep wells and planting septics in the ground? We don't have a proper sewage system in this country, but everybody seems to be fine with that. We've been pumping gray water into our water table for the last 50 years. When you go on West Bay Road and all along that whole corridor, there's a sewage system plant that operates there that takes care of all that. You think the Radisson got a septic tank? You know the size that would be? Or, sorry, the Ritz, not the Radisson. This went back all the way to 1990. But anyway, but you know the Westin and none of these big hotels and condominium complexes do not have septic tanks. They have processors that goes into a sewage system that is in that area. So why is it that the environmentalists don't champion the cause to get proper sewage system in the eastern districts where all the heavy residential areas are? Nobody is championing that cause, but that's something that is heavily needed. Why? Because we're ruining the water table on a daily basis. We drill 60-foot wells and we take our gray water from our septic and our sink and our washers and dryers and we pump it into our water table, and we do it willingly and nobody says a word. So the same people that dives around eating rock and waterfront and complain about every development along the shoreline, why are they not complaining about that? And mine, it's a very simple solution because the rest of the entire world got it except us. The rest of the entire world have it except us. Now, when I said entire world, of course, that excluding the third world countries and countries that don't have the infrastructure or the financial means to put it in. But at the end of the day, we run around here calling ourselves a first world society with third world policies and third world rules and third world, regulations. Imagine that, right? But again, I just want to say this, and I don't really care what anybody gonna say, quite honestly. We need that east-west arterial road. Can we build it as environmentally friendly as we can? Then maybe we should do that. But at the end of the day, there are going to be some environmental impacts, and there are going to be some of those that we're going to have to accept in order to get ourselves to where we need to be. Now, don't get me wrong. When you hear me talk about sustainable and development, that requires exactly what this particular project has now championed, and that is to get an EIA study before they build the road. All right. But how long is it going to take for us to get to a point? Because I see where they started clearing out the land already again. So at the end of the day, we need to get that sorted, and we need to get it sorted now. That's just one topic. Then when we look into the cost of living, and I tried to find where any government in the last 30 years has prioritized reducing the cost of living. Now, there's one key factor that sticks out to me most of all, and then many people have heard me say this over the years and continue to say it on a consistent basis. Because we import every single thing, that means that every single thing we consume has a fuel factor attached to it. Everything that we consume has a fuel factor. So if I was a government and I formed a committee to spearhead projects and ideas to reduce the cost of living, the first place I stop is fuel consumption. That's the first place I start to look. How do we reduce fuel consumption? How do we reduce the cost of fuel? How do we reduce our dependency on certain products coming? And how can we start to do a lot of things here locally as opposed to shipping it in? So at the end of the day, if someone wants to genuinely tackle the cost of living, fuel is where you start. We got utility company, we got the pumps, we got the retailers at the pumps, we got the wholesalers who distribute to both entities, right? Then we have the supermarkets who pay high costs in freight simply because the cost of diesel gone up, so the cost of freight gone up, and then that's a reflection on the price tag in the supermarkets. We're seeing where the government have given due to concessions on baby food and certain other items in order to try to alleviate some of the pressures to the smaller people. Now, people who making six figures a year, obviously the cost of milk don't really affect them. The cost of gas don't really affect them. But who pays the price at the end of the day when the government start giving out these social programs and subsidizing all these things? We all pay that price. And then when they don't work, because you can't run this country off of social programs, I can assure you that, right? Then we have government who sits down behind closed doors and lobby to get certain things done in this country that is no real benefit to reducing the cost of living or no real benefit to the economy and the people who are struggling within the economy. So how do we structure a plan? How do we come up with a master plan on how to remedy this problem? Now, there's an article in the Compass talking about one of the ways to tackle traffic and different things is a bus system. But let me tell you something. The first thing we got to do is change the attitude of those people who drive in these taxis. You see these little local taxis and buses that run up and down from east to west and west to north and all that thing. We need to take all the license, and I don't care which one of them wants to say something to Mario. It's 328 4451. That a number. But I can tell you, I better pray that I don't ever get in charge because I taken all on a license, taking everybody license that driving like idiots on the road. And I can tell you the biggest donkeys on the road is them bus drivers. They don't pull off in proper spots. They can see a person on the opposite side of the road. They blow their horn and they pull off in the middle of the road, causing all sorts of issues. God knows, and God forbid, I don't know how we haven't seen any more serious accidents with these donkeys driving on the road. And I speaking to every single bus driver in Cayman. Every one of you are the worst drivers in this country. But yet somehow the police run around ticketing somebody because they got 10 on their window. The police got speed traps every day on every corner in Cayman, giving people tickets trying to get to work or trying to go get food or trying to go and do something to make their life easier. But they let these bus drivers violate every traffic law daily and don't say a word to them. I not seen a bus driver in my life getting a ticket yet. Why that is? That like I not see a Lime or an Englishman in this country get arrested for DUI and nobody drink more than them. But you see, nobody don't want to have that conversation. But here in Word of Mouth, we can have that conversation because I really don't care. Nobody don't pay for this narrative. You understand? And that's what the beauty of this is. But you know, truth be told, and I got some English like my friends, and I know that may have mashed their corn a little bit, but I don't care. Somehow I don't see the system clogged up with them in the court system for DUIs. And I can assure you, there's not one pub in Cayman that can keep beer on tap for these people. That's a fact. But anyway, and then don't let English Premier League be on. You can't even get into a bar. So, having said that, one of the major problems we have right now with the infrastructure design is because we've allowed the utility company and all of the other facets of the fuel regulate, create their own environment. And we here have been the recipients of whatever they put in place for us to deal with. Listen, I've said this. I mean, I feel like I've been beating this poor dead horse so long now that this horse is about to come back and beat me because CUC passed through all its petroleum costs to us, the consumer. Every single dollar that is spent on petroleum for CUC is a direct pass through to the consumer. So how is it for the life of me that we've never had any one control over who they buy fuel from, how they buy it, how it's distributed, or any of that? We got OFREG, for God's sakes. That is the regulatory body that's supposed to ensure certain standards and regulations are carried out. Okay, fine. Do OFREG need some new guidelines and a new approach? Maybe so. Now I see I'm got a new consumer committee, right? I think that's a step in the right direction. I'm not here to beat up on that system. I think that's a step in the right direction. That's one of the components that I feel should have already been in place. Now let's just see how effective this particular consumer committee have on the decision making in off-right. The thing is that until we get to a point where we have full autonomy over the distribution grid of this country, we will never ever be at a level playing field on how we consume energy, much less having any leverage to say, oh well, if you guys are not providing it in an adequate or an efficient way, we may need to bring in another provider. But I had mentioned something years ago when I used to frequent the Rooster talk show with Woody DeCosta. I said, how hard would it be to have substations in each district to provide utility or energy to each district, as opposed to everything being pumped from one location, which is North Sound Road, right? And let me tell you something. They went up and they came down, and you know what all that meant is that it would have opened the door for another utility company to come in and provide energy in certain areas, in certain spots on the island, which would have created competition, which would have then been to the benefit of the consumer. Now, I understand that Cayman's market is relatively small, and any business model will naturally be higher in cost because of the population. I get it. I know. I didn't study business in school, and I don't have no college degree, but I know business 101, right? So at the end of the day, I don't have an issue with some of the reasons why companies do what they do, such as CUC. I'm not confused as to why they do it. I know exactly why they do it. The fact is, and the problem is that we allow them to. We accept it because we think that that's a fair trade-off for the service in which they provide. Like somebody told me, well, CUC employ a lot of Caymanians, and I always say, but that's the least they could do. They got a monopoly on distributing electricity to our country. They own our grid. They charge other companies to use our grid. We don't see none of that. How come DataLink, which is a separate company from CUC, but owned by them, charges every other utility, Flow, Lime, Digital, C3, Logic, everybody pay them to use the grid. But the people in the Cayman Islands who is responsible for maintaining it, responsible for building it, and responsible for paying for the fuel that pump electricity on it, how come we don't get a dollar out of that? How come we pay for the grid and we pay for them to distribute on the grid for their fuel, but yet the people of this country don't receive one single dollar from the grid, and 99% of the grid on Crown land and private land? Because CUC don't own the road shoulders. CUC don't own the private yards that light poles sitting in with the line running through it. I know they can't put no pole on Mario Dion Rankin land without paying. I can tell you that right now. They put a pole there, they got to pay or they got to move it. But see, people don't know the simple right of fixed boundary laws. Fixed boundary laws are very simple. If you own a plot of land and that in your name, in the planning regulation authority, that has a fixed boundary, and anything within that fixed boundary belongs to you. So anybody who violate that would have to have your written express permission to do so, and do so for free. So check yourself, check your light bill and your water bill, or check all of your bills to see whether or not you signed some contract giving them permission to put the meters and all the crap on your land for free. Go check it, because if you don't have that, they got to pay. They got to pay. So all of the engineers and all of the marketing, I see CUC start doing it now. They start spending money on marketing. That they're the greatest thing since sliced bread, when they got the worst contract known to man for a small island like Cayman. They should be ashamed of themselves. I'm telling you, and anybody who support that institution and that contractual agreement, then they're part of the problem. They're not part of the solution, my friend. Because normally and typically, things that got you into problem are not the things that are gonna get you out of problems. You must understand that. So if this system that they have, that they're working under now, is the issue, how we expect that to fix the problem? That can't fix it. We need something external. We need something that is alternative to that in order to sort the problem out. So we need to own our grid. And I don't care how many engineers and how many people in CUC think that we can't own the grid. Because right now CUC has subcontracted all of the linemen and people who takes care of the grid. That's all being subbed out. So we're not reinventing the wheel. We own the grid, we take the grid, and we keep the contracts in place. And we still charge the same energy surcharge that they charge to maintain it. Look on your bill. Now, I've always said this, and I can still pound this. I know this is 2023, and until we get some change and some answers, we're not gonna stop. So I want the new off-reg consumer committee. This is the first thing I want you to look at, Mr. Georgie Banks. You the chairman. This is the first thing I want them to look at. I want them to find out what is the alternative energy surcharge on your bill. I want to find out what that is, number one. Number two, I want to find out if we buying something. Number three, I want to find out how long they plan to charge us for it. And number four, last but not least, I want to find out if we're gonna own what it is they're charging us to pay for. Because if Mario Rankin paying for the 1 megawatt or the 5 megawatt solar panel system they bought up in Bordentown Quarry from that private company, which I'm still a little suspicious about. Some private company just pop in here, get permission to build a 5 megawatt solar panel grid, and then all of a sudden CUC buy it, integrate it into their distribution network, and then all of a sudden, what pops up on our bill? An alternative energy surcharge. So is that what we're paying for? Because if we're paying for that, I want to know how long we got to take to pay for it, to pay it off, and I want to know why they own it after we pay for it. Why we don't own it? Why whatever electricity that come from that is not being subsidized and reduced from your light bill? Because this is the sort of thing that's happening. So the consumer committee that OFREG just instituted and announced that they got a nice little board there with some people on it. That's one of the questions we need to be asking. And then the next thing we need to be talking about is we need to be having the conversation about how we can take back the grid and put it into the sovereignty of this country to the people. You know why? Because no country should be held where the one and only utility company owns the distribution grid, which is already on 99.9% of private land and crown land. We need to own that distribution grid. So therefore, when we go to the table to negotiate a contract to provide energy, we got the leverage. We own the leverage. We are at an advantage where we can say, listen, if you guys can't produce it and deliver it at this and at this level, we can have bring somebody else in. Why? Because we own the grid. We own the grid. We got to stop operating from a reactive position. We are a reactive society. We wait for stuff to happen and then we react. We got to be proactive. We got to stop these things from happening so that we can have less impact on the people who feels it the most. You understand? I read just over the weekend that being poor is not a condition, It's a mentality. It's a mentality. It's mental. And when you are groomed to be poor, you will forever be poor. So if we continue to allow them to distribute on a grid that's on our land and then charging us for the fuel for distributing the current on the grid that we pay for, come on, think about it, ladies and gentlemen. Think about it, ladies and gentlemen. They are distributing energy on a grid that we bought and paid for after Hurricane Ivan. And I can tell you, we paid a handsome dollar for it too. And for a very long time. And now they got and they got a surcharge on there for maintaining it. And then we pay for the fuel for their generators that pump electricity on it to our house. We pay every kilowatt hour for it, and we pay for the fuel. We got to be the biggest fools in the modern world. And we got government sitting down on their hand, shaking their feet like they're on some toilet, thinking about something that I don't get it. Who fighting for us? But you see, Section 72 of that Constitution, I want everybody to take time, download or go down to the LA and buy a copy of the Constitution. Go to Section 72 and read it. So nothing prior to 2009 gave us a leg or a foot to stand on. But everything since 2009 gave us Section 72, the power of referendum. So whenever these duly elected people who claim they're doing something in your best interest decide they're going to do something that is on a national level that we don't agree with or they didn't consult us with, we can have a referendum, we can take a petition, have a referendum, and we vote on it. We can take the power out of their hand. And we got to start exercising that more. But yet you're going to have the stupid aristocrat that will tell you can't run a country off of referendum. So how we can run a country off an election? How is it that we can run a country off elected members if we can't run it off a referendum, which is exactly the same thing, having a vote on something that we think that could be a matter of national importance? He said, if we don't get an educated democracy, we will continue to see candy shop owners run the country. You know what candy shop owners is? People who hand out things, give people sweet and sugar just to distract them and get what they want. And that's what we see here. I can tell you. Believe me when I tell you. So don't ever be tricked about the glamour and the glitter, because now everything glitter gold. Obviously, that is clear as day now. So until we understand the importance of our surroundings and how important it is for us to control our surroundings and be at the forefront of what happened in this country, we can't allow. And I don't care. And I just keep saying this. I don't care how many Caymanians work at CUC. I'd have nothing against them. Okay, I don't. This is not about the people who work at CUC. This is about the structure in which CUC operates under. Because when the person who owned CUC prior to the new owners was selling it, can anybody tell me why the government didn't take the pension money and buy it? How we let a Canadian company called Fortis come to Cayman and buy the majority interest in our utility company when we got $2 billion sitting down in pension money. So when you hear politicians say we're going to reinvest in our people, you must really think into that and what they really mean by that. They're not investing in us. You know why they're not investing in us? And remember the statements by Jackie Dote at the chamber conference. And remember those statements she made, those ill-fated statements that we made her pay the price for about who we're investing in. The government cannot look you in the face and tell you that they are investing in the people when they sit down on $3 billion now. But yet, here we are putting all sorts of things in place to encourage inward bound investment. Think about this for a minute, ladies and gentlemen. We do everything in our power. We just open up a U.S. office. You all realize that the Cayman Islands now have an office in the United States of America, and ask Mario Rankin why. Because they're going to be just as useless as the one we got in the UK. And what benefit is it bringing to us? You know, I just get frustrated when the thought processes come through my head when I think about these things, right? We have all of these things that they claim is in the best interest of Cayman, encouraging inward bound investment to these islands for years. But yet, when we put the pension system in place that has now accumulated all the pension houses in this country, $3 billion, and every single dollar in those pension houses is in these investment vehicles. So how is it that we can encourage foreign people to come here to invest, but we can't even encourage our own people to invest in our own island? CUC should be owned by a pension provider. Water Authority, public shares should be owned by pension provider, meaning the people of these islands. Every single utility in this country could be easily owned by the pension providers. So why is it we not investing in ourselves? Why are we afraid to invest in our own things that we've allowed other companies to invest in? These are the things that baffles my mind. These are the things. Now one that you'll have an accountant that works and that is paid to say, oh, well, we don't do it because you don't do it because of what reason? Because I can assure you only 51% of CUC is not only in the best interest of the people owning it, but in the best interest of the country on a whole. Because now we own the company in which we fight with now. The largest factor in the cost of living is the cost of fuel. You all don't understand. We need to get moving. We got to stop the idea that this thing will fix itself. It's not gonna fix itself. It's not gonna fix itself. And we need to start taking control of our surroundings, being better aware, understanding it, and being willing to do something about it. Because we got generation of thinkers. Now we got generation of talkers, me being one of them. The next generation need to be the doers. So you got the thinkers, the talkers, the doers. And if somehow we can collaborate, the talkers with the doers, I think that's checkmate. I think we can combine our efforts and get some difference made in this country, because otherwise we're not going down a slippery slope. If this slope was slippery, we would have had a chance. This is a free fall. There's nothing to grab onto. There's no slope. This is a black hole we drop in that we aimlessly fallen into. And all politicians can think about, oh, well, we need to encourage this. I was telling somebody the other day, and I tell you, ironically, I used to tutor math in school. I don't even have a high school diploma, but I tutored math. So I kind of good with numbers. I know CPA and I know certified public accountant. But one thing I know for sure is that numbers don't lie. Numbers don't lie. So as opposed to open up a US office, that those resources could have been better used, regardless of whatever that amount is. But the funny thing is, I heard somebody talking the other day about Cayman Airways, right? And let me just break something down for everybody when it comes to Cayman Airways. Let's put aside all of the ills and spills that surround that, and the controversy about government having to subsidize Cayman Airways every year to keep it going. But let me just say this to you. If you guys go and look at the statistics on how many passengers Cayman Airways bring to these shores every year from abroad, and now they're broadening their reach, going to California, different places. Listen to me good, When you look at the numbers, I used to have the statistics, but now I'm sure the numbers are different since COVID and now they will restart. But Cayman Airways used to bring anywhere between 200 to 300,000 people to our shores on an annual basis. All right? Go to the ESO website and look at the average spend per tourist. And when you look at that, you'll see something around $150 million to $200 million that those tourists that Cayman Airways bring here spend in our economy. So are you telling me that we have an issue with a national airline that we subsidize $10 million a year for, and they bring in us $200 million worth of revenue? We got to be the biggest fools. So please, when I'm having this conversation, make sure to know every single detail about the issue before you open your mouth. The people, because when you look at the cruise passengers, when you look at the stayover passengers make up 80% of the revenue generated from tourism, not the cruise. And how do stayover passengers get here? By plane, by the airlines. They bring them here. So Cayman Airways bring a large portion of those numbers, which means it equates to a lot of money. So it makes economical sense for the government to continue to subsidize it, because it's bringing revenue in to the tourism industry. We got to understand that there's a pivot, right? And once that pivot don't go too far one way, once we keep it balanced in the middle, we're good to go. But we find so many reasons to tear down another Caymanian for doing anything that is remotely resemblance of anything good. I mean, we got so much energy stored up in our bank to tear down a Caymanian that when that Caymanian finally do something that's beneficial for our society, they don't use 1 ounce of it to give them any thanks or give them any praise. And I don't understand that. Let me tell you something. You can find any Jamaican right now in Cayman, right this minute, and I bet you somewhere on him or somewhere around him got Jamaican flag. 100%. No matter how hard he got life, no matter how hard things is for him, one thing he got is the representation of where he come from. And he do it proudly, and she do it proudly. Cayman is the only place. You know what you do? Roll up on any Caymanian random right now and tell them show you a Cayman flag. They probably don't know what it look like. Half of them. So believe me when I tell you, we have lost touch with who we are as a people and where we're going and where we want to be. I'm telling you, we've lost touch because we've allowed all of these broken down systems that people ran from their country, leaving, You imagine, we got people in positions making decisions in our country that ran from their country because they couldn't live there and trying to implement those same policies here. The same thing. I don't understand that. So if we're not willing to be a part of the change, meaning the solution, then I suggest that for those people who are in a position, you need to stop the talking. You need to stop the assuming that things are going to fix itself, because the group of people that got us into this problem, unfortunately, sadly enough, can't be the people that can get us out of it. Okay, it's unfortunate. I know there's a lot of talk around environment and all these things. I mean, I see where, and this is just a slight bit off topic, and I won't spend too much time on that because I really don't care. I see where a guy came to the airport and got 3 guns. Now, my biggest question is now why he got guns in Cayman. My biggest question is how in the hell he got on a plane with 3 guns? How he got on a plane with 3 guns? So that's my problem. And the second thing is that he just got caught. How many people that didn't get catch? So that's the issue. I mean, hopefully we can get to the bottom of it and find out why in the world this man need 3 guns and why he need to bring them here and what reason. The last time that a guy got caught on the airport with a gun, it was because he claimed he forgot it in that bag. Apparently the gun was licensed. I don't even know. And the guy didn't even spend a day in jail. He just had to go to court. He was released, whatever the case is. I could be wrong, but from what I understand, that's what took place. But if we're gonna realistically have a look at the well-being of our sustainability in the Cayman Islands and where we're going to be headed in the future, we need to strongly look at the issues at hand. Now, one topic I want to bring up here, and I want to talk about in depth because it's something that I just recently had to deal with, right? And I don't call names, and I refuse to call names. There's a lady that I help I've been helping in the last couple of weeks. She got a few kids, and she had to end up sleeping on the beach because she gets NAU assistance, $1,200, but she can't find anywhere that accepts NAU assisted people because there's this thing around NAU not paying the landlords on time. So the landlords are just not interested in renting to people who are being assisted by NAU because of the late payments. And then you have people who have other reasons too, who just don't want those type of people in their establishment. Now, again, that's a level of discrimination that we need to fix. And if there's an issue where NAU just don't have the resources or not getting the resources on time to pay on time, we need to fix that too. Because we got to stop having all these banquets and galas and charities and all of these award ceremonies and fix that problem first before we can do anything else. How is it we can get up on a podium in the middle of Georgetown at Hero Square and close the whole street down and have this big event? And I telling you, the people who got awarded, well deserved, and congratulations to all of them. I'm not saying anything to take away from them. I'm just using this as an illustration of why we need to prioritize the well-being of our people, right? If we can continue to have all of these galas and all of these ceremonies while at the very same time we're on the podium giving praise to people and other people, rightfully so. You got a woman, they got 4 children, they can't feed them, they're sleeping in their car, bathing in the public bathroom on West Bay Road at 7 Mile Beach. And it's not because she don't have the resources to pay. It's because the help she's getting is not accepted by the landlords, majority of the landlords in this island. And then the people who do accept it, and you go look at the living conditions, is deplorable, unacceptable. So a woman like her gonna have to take her 4 children into the most deplorable conditions simply because that's all she can get. And that's the problem. And if we continue to act like that's not a moral issue and that's not a fundamental problem that is eroding away at the confidence of our own people, then we make a sad mistake. So if I was in Parliament and if I were the Premier, if I were Wayne Pannon, as useless as he is, right? If I were him, I seize everything in the halls of Parliament until we fix whatever issue NAU is having without disbursement and with the disbursement of funds on time so that people can get into good places to stay. And I would change the law. I mean, Wayne Pannon and them changed the COVID law, You remember they changed the COVID law on a flip of a dime and made it illegal for people to be in this country unvaccinated and with a work permit. That piece of garbage like him could really go and force people to take a vaccine, which clearly now don't work because they want a work permit. But yet he can't go in and legislate laws to make sure that people who are renting properties in this country don't discriminate. Yeah, Wayne Pannon, I'm talking to you, brother. You can legislate a law to coerce people to getting vaccinated or go home, but you can't legislate a law that people who renting in this market that they don't discriminate against people once they got the money. That's a problem. I got a problem with that. So your entire marketing team and your little prop-up service you go over there, you better tell them to fix that. Because none of your PR people and none of the people that you got surrounding you that helping you, they can't help you win, because the nature of the beast is the nature of the beast. When somebody tell you who they are, believe them. The first conversation I had with Wayne Pannon, let me remind the general public, the first conversation I had with Wayne Pannon at Simboko Country Corner, the first words out of the man mouth, and mine, living in Newlands for 20 odd years, he never talked to me a day in his life. No, I've been fishing with these brothers them plenty of time. The first words out of that man mouth, Mario, I'm not prejudiced. People who are not prejudiced don't have to say they're not prejudiced. That's number one. And he went on to tell me he got white privilege too. He went on to tell me that he got white privilege. And those were the things that blew my... He has no idea. Because Wayne thought that I was some shallow, big mouth person who only goes on Google. Because he said that in public one time that, I don't follow people who research on Google. But he's so stupid that anything you need to know is on Google. And I bet you he's seen one use Google. I bet you that. But anyway, the man went on to tell me how he got white privilege. Now, I'm not here to talk about Wayne and make this about him, because he don't deserve my spotlight. He don't deserve it. He not worthy of it. But he did go on to tell me that he got privileged on the Miami airport going to look at a college. And I don't call who the institution was that gave him an opportunity of a lifetime. But let me just go and tell you this. That institution is the reason why he got the wealth he got today. End of story. So anybody can put the dots together and find what it is without me calling the names. But at the end of the day, for somebody to have that mentality who is running for politics, it blew my mind. It blew my mind. And Wayne was on Radio Cayman, I gave him a full endorsement. Now, take that for what it is. He don't have my endorsement no longer. Because later on, after he got elected, he did some shady things, and I called him out on it, and I brought him into the presence of close people around me, and I made them see the type of person he was, when he couldn't even be honest in front of us who just voted for him. But we'll leave it there. That's our premier. So I want to know why the premier on that level can't look at the issues that NAU is having, because I don't think it's the employees at NAU, They're only as good as the resources that they have been given. So nobody at NAU is at fault. So I hope that all those people out there that is struggling with that, with NAU, that they don't blame the people in NAU. It's the people who fund it and the people who operate and make the policies. Those are the people that you need to be looking for. There's those top-notch civil servants and those chief officers, because some chief officers in this country need to be fired, I can name a few that need to go home and plant cassava, because I don't think they can mess that up. Because every day I hear horror stories. I hear them every single day, and it's very sad. How you can be a person that working a 9 to 5 every day, getting a little assistance, but yet you still struggling? You still struggling? This lady had to move back to the BRAC with her children, where she says she might have a better chance of getting something. I need to follow up with her later on in the day here, just to make sure she got food to feed her children. Because I know the BRAC expensive. BRAC not cheap. But how is it that we're comfortable with continuing what we're doing without pausing and fixing those little small issues? That woman should never have to sleep on a beach with her 4 children and bathe in the public bathroom. She should never have to do that. Believe me when I tell you. But it's because the system is failing and has failed her. And many more like her. She's just one of many people who are going through the exact same struggles. Some people are too prideful to come forward and ask anybody for help, so you'll never know. And that's what pains my heart most of all. Where are the people that you don't see? The ones we see, we can help. But the ones we don't see, we can't. Because we don't know they're there. But the government insists on parading around here like everything good. But everything not good. We got $3 billion in pension money, right? I want to know how every pension provider don't have an external independent audit. Because let me tell you something. If the administration arm of the pension provider is making more money than investment vehicles, man, we got a problem. We got a problem. If the pension houses in this country, we know who the five of them are. We don't need to call names. If their offices, if their administration fees is larger than the investment returns, we got a problem. That means we paying them to manage our money. We paying them more to manage our money than our money making. Something not right with this picture. So I want to know, how is it that we are allowing this to happen? I don't get it. Mr. Chris Saunders is an accountant by profession, and he is in the Ministry of Finance. So we need to shoot a shot across that bow. We need to let them know we here. We need to know what's going on. We need some audits. We need to know what's happening. I want to know why the investment vehicle is not performing. I need to know why. But yet the owners of these pension houses living in these gated communities and driving around and they hike the tight cars and bragging to people about they got $100 million in their account. $100 million of who money though? Because then we find out that our money, we coming for it, and you're not gonna like when we come for it because we're not asking you. We need a 1215 BC repeat called the Magna Carta. That's what we need. We need to let the man them know behind the doors. But in 1215, they were behind the gates. You see the man them behind the doors in LA? We need to let them know. If they're not legislating laws and policies in the best interest of the people that we can eat to, we coming inside and we taking control and we running here about out. Now, our little feeble governor probably listening to that now, calling the commissioner saying that Mario is insinuating violence, but that's not what I'm insinuating. It's called the technology revolution. We don't need to go in with no violence. Education. That's how you win this revolution. That's how you win this fight. But we need to make sure that we have enough people who are willing to stand with you, because I've seen it a lot of times when we were fighting against that vaccination mandate. You had a lot of people talking, but boy, not a lot of people showed up, playing the talk, right? And I know a lot of people may think that, oh, well, that was the foreigners only that needed that. No, that one precedent gave Mr. Panton the confidence to regulate and institute other stupid laws in this country. Okay, he has, and he's continued. He is by far the worst premier in the entire Commonwealth, not just Cayman, everywhere, the worst. And you know what? His track record speaks for itself. It speaks for itself. So at the end of the day, how do we get to a point where we make change? That is to educate, create awareness, continue the conversation. Because the generation of the talkers and the thinkers, and now we got the doers, we got to combine efforts. Because if we continue to not do anything, it will continue to get worse. And that's just the reality of it all. That is the sad reality. So I remember in 2019-18, I think it was, I wrote an article called The New Pirates of the Caribbean that was published in the Observer Jamaica. And I think I got reposted for people to just read it over again. And I didn't have any clue at the time that COVID was upon us, or COVID was a year out. I had no idea. It was almost like a Nostradamus sort of moment for me. I didn't predict the pandemic. I just simply said that the Caribbean nations need to unify when it comes to cruise tourism. I said the Western itinerary, which is Jamaica, Haiti, Mexico, and Cayman, Bermuda. I said we should have united our efforts to make sure that the cruise lines didn't exploit our islands with how they would come in here and they would make all the tour operators trade against each other until they get the lowest price, and then they end up selling the tour on the ship for $80 but paying us $15. And they were doing it for years, for decades. And I reminded in that article that 60% of their revenue, 60% of all revenue in the cruise industry comes from the Caribbean basin. So that indicated one thing to me, that we have the power. And if we had unified and said, okay, listen, here's what you're paying for this tour, here's what you're paying for that tour, and all tours across the line, this is what you pay us. We don't care what you charge your passengers, but you're going to be paying our operators what they're supposed to be getting. And then once you form that union and you put that in place, the cruise line wouldn't have had any other choice. But of course, you got the weak-minded politicians who grew up in the Banana Republic school, and that's how they want to run it, self-serving interest. Oh, well, I don't care what he say. I can just make sure that my brother and my sister or me or whoever, we good. And the rest of the country suffer because of it. But the article was a great article, and I'm going to republish it just so people, the younger people, can read it and understand what mindset I had. And I said, now that COVID is here and the tourism department is completely shut down, this is a perfect time to rewrite the structure, to reinstitute something that will be in the best interest of all tour operators, right? And nobody done it. Nobody, no, not one single soul here in the government even entertained the idea. And maybe it was because it was my idea. I don't know. I don't really care. But at the end of the day, why wasn't it instituted? Because the cruise lines say that, oh, well, we weren't going to tender the Oasis size ship. Well, let me tell you something. That son of a gun been here 4 times now. She blocked the light of the sun 4 separate times now. When you go Georgetown, it's dark because she blocked out the sun. That's how big she is. But yet, Carnival and Royal claim on a platform here in the Cayman Islands, when you had those other PPM monkeys swinging around in the LA, Moe's Cornels and Alden, Sir Alden, institutionalized house nigger he is. Oh, this is the greatest thing. They're not going to come here. They're going to pass us by if we don't build a cruise berth in for sure. Now, they can't even get in. They're the first one in line in the harbor out there, tendering every soul off of it. But yet, they wanted us to build a $500 million pier so they can destroy our harbor to accommodate their customers. But you see, that's just how short-sighted we are, right? And people don't grasp the impacts of what's going on. The cruise line, entire bloodline, lifeline, financially comes from the Caribbean basin. The Cayman Islands being the most premier destination on the Western itinerary, they're not gonna ever not want to come here. If we told them that every passenger got pay $40, they come in. You know why? Because they're gonna charge a passenger $80. And I don't understand. We got a head tax. That head tax is comical because we don't have a clue what they're charging their passengers. They could be telling their passengers the head tax is $80 and we only kept collecting $15. Well, it was $13.50, somewhere around there. I stand corrected. But it was somewhere in that region that we collect per head on tax. We don't know what the cruise line charged them because that's all built into their costs. It's built in. So these are the things that we need to start talking about. We can reduce the cost of living. And another thing that I mentioned just recently, obviously, my solution to generating additional revenue from the financial service industry, is to take 5% of the 25% that the law firms, accounting firms, and trust companies are charging to manage all of these hedge funds and mutual funds. Listen, we got $3 trillion in mutual funds and hedge funds that are being managed and taken care of in the Cayman Islands, which makes us the 5th largest financial center in the world, right? So roughly 25% of that $3 trillion goes into the service fees, where all of these banks and all of these law firms and accounting firms charge. Why do you think an equity partner in a law firm can carry home $5 million bonus? Because there's a lot of money coming off that. So if the government was to put a sovereignty on that of 5% that goes into the sovereignty, it don't affect the customer. It's just coming out the pockets of the big bonuses. They won't make $8 million this year. They'll make $5.5. Okay, sorry, didn't mean to offend you with $5.5 million. And we take that sovereignty, we put it into a fund that takes care of the welfare of our country, that takes care of the people who are needy, that takes care of the sick people who can't afford high insurance costs to get proper health care, takes care of education, scholarship funds. It can generate almost $1 billion a year, which is 1/3 of our GDP, $2.7 billion. So why are we wasting time? That's one thing. The second thing is that the government need to create a sovereignty so that they can go in on a case by case basis, and all banks need to report to the sovereignty on foreclosures. We need to get a report on all foreclosed properties, so that way that sovereignty that generate that wealth can purchase those mortgages, put them into CIDB, refinance them, and give it back to the people at a lower interest rate and at a lower monthly rate, so that they can keep their homes. You know why? You know why that's important? A lot of Caymanian families, a lot of Caymanian homes are bought with some equity that they have put in. Let me just give you a case and scenario. I know a few people that have inherited land from their family, and they have used that property as a deposit, the value of that property as a down payment to get a mortgage. So that's land that was given to them out of love and compassion from their family. Okay, they put that into the mortgage pool so they can get a mortgage to build a house on it. And for whatever reason, they fall behind, and their home is then foreclosed on, and the bank turns around now and sell it for what is owed, not market value. That person then loses that piece of land that they inherited for free. So everything that they've had in life is gone to a mortgage. So that's why it's important that, one, we put a law in place that say no foreclosed property should ever sell less than 80% of market value. And if that, and if that amount exceeds what is owed, the balance have to be given back to the person. But you see, we don't have that in place. We let the banks take it, call their friend up and say, hey, go on foreclosed house, boy, nice to, the guy only owe 100,000, it's worth about 700, but you can get it for 100. That's what they've been doing. And a lot of those PR recipients who put in their applications have been buying foreclosed homes from their little buddies. And that's the sort of cesspool operation we are running in this country. But the government don't really care, right? Nah, we want inward bound investments. Bring them all in. Let's pile the buildings up. Let's build a store. That's what they're doing. That's exactly what they're doing. There's a 1-bedroom apartment in the 3rd phase of Hilton. I just found that out this morning. A 1-bedroom, 800 square feet, $300 and big odd $1,000. 300. You understand what I'm saying? So tell me, if you take that $300,000 and you rent a $1,500 a month apartment, and you divide that up, that about 20 years, And you know the beauty about it is, you're not gonna maintain it, you're not gonna pay no insurance for it, you just gotta go there and live and leave. And you're not obligated to it. And after the 20 years, you say, well, you know something, I need to move now. You're not tied to it. That's the logic behind that. So if we're gonna have a conversation about anything, let's just have a real conversation. Let's call a spade, man. Because I'm not sitting here trying to pamper up nothing, I'm not pampering up nothing. And yeah, I know sometimes the name calling of politicians may be a little bit distasteful, but sometimes it's warranted. Because there's no other best way to describe people who have run roughshod over this country and the people who are suffering from it. You understand what I'm saying? It's not good. It's not good. And then you got a couple other politicians up inside, like what's his name? Oh Lord, I wish I can remember his name. Now that's how much I care about him as a politician. The boy there from West Bay, man, E-Banks, minister now. Oh my God, Andrew? I don't know. Forgive me if I don't even know his name. That's how bad it is. These guys sit down up inside and they're useless. They're useless. We got so many fundamental breakdowns in this country and none of them are being addressed. All I can hear was let's do this and let's do that. But who's benefiting? Listen, if we not all at that table, if we not all at that trough, then nobody can be at that trough. You understand me? I'm telling you right now, if we not all eating, nobody not eating. And that's how it should be. That's how it should always been. And that's how anything we do in this country should reflect. I want somebody to go out right now and find me a piece of legislation that has been implemented in the last 10 years that looked out for the best interests of Caymanians. Go find me that piece of legislation. Now, I've seen plenty of legislations for residents. I've seen plenty of legislations for all sorts of stuff. But I ain't seen none for Caymanians, for the continuity of Caymanians. They changed the LCCL law so many times to accommodate inward bound investment without Caymanian participation, about 1 million times, just to accommodate them. right? And it's unfortunate because we sit down and watch it happen. And then you got some people in the legal fraternity who have become institutionalized to the system simply because it's personal gain for them to keep them to keep a tight line and keep their mouth shut. I'll end with this, and we got a lot more to talk about in the upcoming weeks because Word of Mouth is going to be relaunched, rebranded, and direction going to be brand new, and you're going to be seeing us every week now. All right, and studio quality by the way, right? I'll leave on this note. I'll leave you all with the definition of a token Caymanian. Let me leave you the definition of that. Let me break it down in as the most layman terms as I can for the average layman to understand. Let me break it down for you. So a token Caymanian is a person who has climbed the corporate ladder and have gotten to the epitome, to the decision-making position, right? And during the course of that trek, he knew exactly what he went through and had to deal with to get there, right? He knows firsthand, otherwise he wouldn't be where he is. But yet, in that same system of reality that he had to deal with, he's done nothing at all to change it, to make it fair, or to create any more opportunities, or to make it easier for another Caymanian to get where he is, but didn't necessarily have to go through what he went through. Now, there are a few things in there that are by compulsory, because that's what the institution requires. But there are some other things in the beginning that are just ad hoc and discretionary, and is done simply to weed out and make sure that an unwilling Caymanian with the ambition and the smarts and the know-how don't get to the top because they're not willing to jeopardize the possibility of them creating change and opening the floodgates for more Caymanians. So when you see that Caymanian at the top and the system not changing, that, my friend, is a token Caymanian. Now that Caymanian may be well liked too in the local community. He may have a good family unit. He may be the most awesome person in the world to talk to. But the one thing he's missing is the courage to break the system that would have broke him if he had not agreed to subscribe to all of the things that got him to where he is, knowing very well that they were wrong. And the reason why I highlight that this morning is because it's been happening to our Caymanian people for so long that we've developed this whole stigma that we're too lazy and we don't want to work and we don't want to show up. But on the corporate level, when the Caymanian demonstrates any level of ambition, smarts, and know-how, if you're now willing to subscribe to the system and let it remain the way it is, you'll never climb that corporate ladder. And that, my friend, is the poster child for a token Caymanian. Trust me on that. And later on in this year, we're going to be doing some videos and some illustrations that will highlight that on a visual platform. And that's my plan, because the upcoming generation need to know these things. So if it is that we got to send a couple moles in and accept the system for what it is, get to the top and then drop the hammer on them and change it. That's what we got to do. That's what we got to do. And that, my friend, is what I was referring to a technological revolution. That's the fight that we got to fight. That's the warfare we got to bring to their doors. So anyway, I'll leave you all with that this morning. This was a pop-up kind of sort of show this morning. It wasn't planned, but because I'm trying to get some good people on board and so we can get this thing to where it needs to be. All right. Today is Wednesday, which is one of our Monday, Wednesday, Fridays. So hopefully Friday we can do another one live. I want to try and get a new background. We're working on that. I'm not sure yet, but we're working on it and get some more life into this. So thank you all for tuning in. Don't forget to like and share our page. And we also have a YouTube for someone that's never lost for words. We have a YouTube channel that we have up and running. I know when you punch in word of mouth, 1 million word of mouth comes up, but we're going to do something distinctively to ours so that it can pop up in your thing and you get it. And I also want to allude to the fact that anyone that has a smart TV and internet, you can watch us live on YouTube, just like watching TV. So what we'll do on one of the segments is kind of do a step-by-step and show you how to do that for a lot of people who are not really technology savvy. And I know we got plenty of them out there. I'm one of them. So if we can do a step-by-step on the show one day with our technical team, can say, guys, you go to the YouTube channel, click here. If you got smart TV, and just go step-by-step. That way people know how to sit in their living room and watch us live. That's better than having a local TV station, right? So anyway, I'll see you guys on Friday. Thank you again for watching. Peace out.
We got to break Cerebra up. Cerebra is a cartel.
We have to own our grid because we paid for it. You had it too long. That's number one. We need to control the purchasing of fuel because we pay for it. We should be in charge of buying it. The fuel companies, you better buckle up too. Jackson Point Pipeline have to be reverted back to the ownership of the country. Oh, Mario, you can't tell them how to operate their business. Well, yes, we can. Having this idea that you're going to impose what's best because of what the law tells you can do will cause an uprising in this country that you've never seen before. My children are going to be saddled with the debt of a billionaire so that he can have his name printed on everything we got around here. Because let me tell you something, this is Dart Island.